Good morning, Year Fives, and welcome to your reading lesson online. I know that many of you are feeling very frustrated being at home again, and I know that Miss Morvena and I are also feeling really disappointed that we can't be at school this week. I know that you've worked incredibly hard, and we've come so far this year, and to be sitting at home now is, yeah, it's not ideal, but we're going to make the most of our situation, and we're going to continue our online learning. And we're going to be continuing our learning as if it was normal at school, so nothing has changed. So please do continue to focus and concentrate and work hard at your work over the coming days. So we're going to kickstart our day with some reading. Many of you are very familiar with the reading. We do it every Monday normally. So today we're going to be looking at new words, and we're going to be continuing to read the Book of Wonder. Right, so let's get going. So just a quick warm up, just to get our brains into gear. Let's think about the word that is closest in meaning to the word clasp. Okay, so I've got smile, wiggle, hold, sing, faint. And at the bottom there, I've even got the word in its past tense in a sentence. So he clasped his hands around his knees to keep warm. So pause the video if you need and have a go at seeing which word do you think is closest in meaning to the word clasp. Right, and hopefully you said hold, so well done. Okay, and remember, closest in meaning, you can take that word, you can substitute it back into the sentence and see if it makes sense. So he held his hands around his knees to keep warm. That would make sense. All right, so similar in meaning is that word hold. So well done. Hopefully your brains are starting to think. Right, so have a think now a little bit about your favorite character and why would you say they're your favorite character? Now, generally we would be in class and you'd be able to talk and discuss this with your partners or at your table, but obviously we're not in class, and so you can have a little chat to your teddy bear, your mom or dad, your sister, your brother, or just have a think yourself. All right, so pause the video now, just have a think about who do you think your favorite character in the book is so far and why would you choose that person? Okay, so we're going to be carrying on reading the next couple of pages of our book. Now, obviously, I am aware that some of you are using tablets or phones, and so the text is going to be really, really small. So I'm happy for you just to have a listen to my voice and just carry on listening to the story. If those of you who can see the text and would prefer to read it, you're welcome to pause the video and read it yourself. Okay, so please feel free to do what you feel most comfortable with, but do please listen or follow and have a look out for some words that you're not too sure about. Right, so we're going to carry on reading. These 2 pages of the book are quite descriptive in how August looks. And while you're listening, or once you've finished reading these 2 pages, I suggest you get out a piece of paper and just have a little doodle of how you would draw what you hear. So, excuse me. Excuse me. Just have a little drawing of what do you think August looks like based on the text that we're going to be reading. So as I say, you're welcome to follow with me, or you can just have a listen. Right, so it says August through the peephole. His eyes are about an inch below where they should be on his face, almost in halfway down his cheeks. They slant downward at an extreme angle, almost like diagonal slits that someone cut into his face. And the left one is noticeably lower than the right one. They bulge outward because his eyes cavities are too shallow to accommodate them. The top eyelids are always halfway closed, like he's on the verge of sleeping. The lower eyelids sag so much they almost look like a piece of invisible string is pulling them downward. You can see the red parts on the inside, like they're almost inside out. He doesn't have eyebrows or eyelashes. His nose is disproportionately big for his face, and kind of fleshy. His head is pinched in on the sides where his ears should be, like someone used giant pliers and crushed the middle part of his face. He doesn't have cheekbones. There are deep creases running down both sides of his nose to his mouth, which gives him a waxy appearance. Sometimes people assume he's been burned in a fire. His features look like they've been melted, like the dripping from the side of a candle. Several surgeries to correct his lip have left a few scars around his mouth, the most noticeable one being a jagged gash running from the middle of his upper lip to his nose. His upper teeth are small and splay out. He has a severe overbite and an extremely undersized jawbone. He has a very small chin. When he was very little, before a piece of his hip bone was surgically implanted into his lower jaw, he really had no chin at all. His tongue would just hang out of his mouth with nothing underneath to block it. Thankfully, it's better now. He can eat at least. When he was younger, he had a feeding tube, and he can talk, and he's learned to keep his tongue inside his mouth, though that took him several years to master. He's also learned to control the drool that used to run down his neck. These are considerable miracles. When he was a baby, the doctors didn't think he'd live. He can hear too. Most kids born with these types of birth defects have problems with their middle ears that prevent them from hearing. But so far, August can hear well enough through his tiny cauliflower shaped ears. The doctors think that eventually he'll need to wear hearing aids, though. August hates the thought of this. He thinks the hearing aids will get noticed too much. I don't tell him that the hearing aids would be the least of his problems, of course, because I'm sure he knows this. Then again, I'm not really sure what August knows or doesn't know, what he understands and doesn't understand. Does August see how other people see him, or has he got so good at pretending not to see that it doesn't bother him? Or does it bother him? When he looks in the mirror, does he see the Aggie mom and dad see, or does he see the Aggie everyone else sees? Or is there another August he sees, someone in his dreams, behind the misshapen head and face? Sometimes when I looked at Grand, I could see the pretty girl she used to be underneath the wrinkles. I could see the girl from Ipanema inside the old lady walk. Does August see himself as he might have looked without that single gene that caused the catastrophe of his face? I wish I could ask him this stuff. I wish he could tell me how he feels. He used to be easier to read before the surgeries. You knew that when his eyes squinted, he was happy. When his mouth went straight, he was mischievous. When his cheeks trembled, he was about to cry. He looks better now, no doubt about that, but the signs we used to gauge his moods are all gone. There are new ones, of course. Mum and Dad can read every single one, but I'm having trouble keeping up. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to keep trying. Why can't he just say what he's feeling like everyone else? He doesn't have a track tube in his mouth anymore that keeps him from talking. His jaw's not wired shut. He's 10 years old. He can use the words, but we circle around him like he's still the baby he used to be. We change plans, go to plan B, interrupt conversations, go back on promises, depending on his moods, his whims, his needs. That was fine when he was little, but he needs to grow up now. We need to let him, help him, make him grow up. Here's what I think. We've all spent so much time trying to make August think he's normal that he actually thinks he is normal. And the problem is, he's not. Have a little think about that last little bit there. What do you think? Do you think they should treat him differently? Have a little think. I will carry on. High school. What I always loved most about middle school was that it was separate and different from home. I could go there and be Olivia Pullman, not Vi, which is my name at home. Vi was what they called me in elementary school too, back then. Everyone knew all about us, of course. Mom used to pick me up after school, and August was always in the stroller. There weren't a lot of people who were equipped to babysit for Aggie, so Mom and Dad brought him to all my class plays and concert and recitals, all the school functions, and the bake sales and the book fairs. My friends knew him. My friends' parents knew him. My teachers knew him. The janitor knew him. Hey, how you doing, Aggie? He'd always say and give August a high five. I guess was something of a feature at PS 22. But in middle school, a lot of people didn't know about August. My old friends did, of course, but my new friends didn't. Or if they knew, it wasn't necessarily the first thing they knew about me. Maybe it was the second or third thing they'd hear about me. Olivia, yeah, she's nice. Did you hear she has a brother who's deformed? I always hated that word, but I knew it was how people described Aggie. And I knew those kinds of conversations probably happened all the time out of earshot, every time I left the room at a party or bumped into groups of friends at the pizza place. And that's okay. I'm always going to be the sister of a kid with a birth defect. That's not the issue. I just don't always want to be defined that way. The best thing about high school is that hardly anybody knows me at all, except Miranda and Ella, of course, and they know not to go around talking about it. Miranda, Ellie, and I have known each other since the first grade. What's so nice is we never have to explain things to one another. When I decided I wanted them to call me Olivia instead of Vi, they got it without my having to explain. They've known August since he was a little baby. When we were little, our favorite thing to do was play dress up with Aggie, load him up with feather boas and big hats and Hannah Montana wigs. He used to love it, of course, and we thought he was adorably cute in his own way. Ella said he reminded her of E.T. She didn't say this to be mean, of course, though maybe it was a little bit mean. The truth is, there's a scene in the movie when Drew Barrymore dresses E.T. in a blonde wig, and that was a ringer for Aggie in our Miley Cyrus heyday. Throughout middle school, Miranda, Ellie, and I were pretty much our own little group, somewhere between super popular and well liked, not brainy, not jocks, not rich, not draggies, not mean, not goody goody, not huge, not fat. I don't know if the three of us found each other because we were so alike in so many ways, or that because we found each other, we become so alike in so many ways. We were so happy when we all got into Faulkner High School. It was such a long shot that all three of us would be accepted, especially when almost no one else from our middle school was. I remember how we screamed into our phones the day we got our acceptance letters. This is why I haven't understood what's been going on with us lately. Now that we're actually in high school, it's nothing like how I felt it would be. Out of the three of us, Miranda had always been the sweetest to August, hugging him and playing with him long after Ellie and I had moved on to playing something else. Even as we got older, Miranda always made sure to try to include August in our conversations, asked him how he was doing, talked to him about Avatar, Star Wars, or Bone, or something she knew he liked. It was Miranda who had given Aggie the astronaut helmet he wore practically every day of the year when he was 5 or 6. She would call him Major Tom and they would sing Space Odyssey by David Bowie together. It was their little thing. They knew all the words and would blast it on the iPod and sing the song out loud. Sid Miranda's always been really good about calling us as soon as she got home from summer camp. I was a little surprised when I didn't hear from her. I even texted her and she didn't reply. I figured maybe she had ended up staying in the camp longer now that she was a counselor. Maybe she met a cute guy. Then I realized from her Facebook wall that she'd actually been back home for a full 2 weeks. So I sent her an IM and we chatted online a bit. But she didn't give me a reason for not calling, which I thought was bizarre. Miranda had always been a little flaky, so I figured that's all it was. We made plans to meet downtown, but then I had to cancel because we were driving out to visit Tata and Papa for the weekend. So I ended up not seeing either Miranda or Ella until the first day of school. And I have to admit, I was shocked. Miranda looked so different. Her hair was cut to the super cute bob that she dyed bright pink, of all things. And she was wearing a striped tube top that A, seemed way inappropriate for school, and B, was totally not her usual style. Miranda had always been such a prude about clothes, and here she was all pink-haired and tube-topped. But it wasn't just the way she looked that was different. She was acting differently too. I can't say she wasn't nice, because she was, but she seemed kind of distant, like I was a casual friend. It was the weirdest thing in the world. At lunch, the three of us sat together like we always used to, but the dynamics had shifted. It was obvious to me that Ella and Miranda had gotten together a few times during the summer without me, though they never actually said that. I pretended not to be at all upset while we talked, though I could feel my face getting hot, my smile being fake. Although Ella wasn't as over the top as Miranda, I noticed a change in her usual style too. It's like they had talked to each other beforehand about redoing their image at the new school, but hadn't bothered to clue me in. I admit, I had always thought I was above this kind of typical teenage pettiness, but I felt a lump in my throat throughout lunch. My voice quivered as I said, "See you later," when the bell rang. Right, so you're going to log on to Teams now for me and complete the reading activity that I have prepared. There are two options. The first option is your 1 chili, and your second option is the 2 chili, and you can have a look at which activity would suit you. These activities we've been doing in class this whole year, so complete the activity that you would normally do in class. Miss Pitt, Miss Brettel, and Miss James will be marking your work over the course of this week. So it'd be wonderful for them to see some wonderful work. So please make sure that you put in some effort and do submit your assignments on time. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. If you do struggle to log on to Teams, Ms. Pitt and Ms. Brettel and Ms. James will all be contacting you this week just to have a little check-in. and you can let them know if there are any issues with Teams. If you are really struggling, then please feel free to rather just have a think about some of the words that we've looked at today, and you can do it on a piece of paper, some of the words that you haven't heard before, think about what they do mean, and then look them up online. You can use a dictionary if you have one at home, or you can look them up on the internet, on Google, and then you can just take a picture of that and send it to the year 5 at the palmeracademy.com email address. And I hope otherwise you have a wonderful day of learning. I think I have included the login details just to remind you how to log on to Teams. So it's 15, your name, the first letter of your surname, and then at thepalmeracademy.com. And then your password is TPA in capital letters and your date of your birth. All right. So have a look at that. If you are struggling, you can email us. We'll try our best to help out. But as I say, if you are struggling a lot, then look for some words that you haven't heard before or you don't know about, and then have a think about what they mean, and then look them up, and you can just send that as a picture. And as an extra challenge, think about some antonyms and synonyms for those words. So yeah, hope you have a wonderful day of learning, and I'll see you back here a little bit later for maths. Take care. Bye, guys.